Welcome to the third episode in my saga on chicken and leeks, which I've been doing now for 2 weeks, and I'm really glad that I'm through with chicken and leeks for the time being because I'm beginning to look like chicken and leeks. And this time, in episode 18, I'm going to be talking about consommes and broths made from the chicken and leek soup. But just for my cold open, I'm going to show you my last hurrah with the chicken and leeks in my Cock-a-Leekie soup, which I extracted and heated with a little gravy, covered with mashed potato, and baked for about 20 minutes. And lo and behold, we have Cock-a-Leekie cottage pie. So we've brought the two threads together for the moment, and then we're going to part in a little while. So let's get cooking with consommes. So here's my stock pot merrily bubbling away. I've been adding extra leeks, and in fact I also had an old chicken carcass from a few weeks ago that I'd frozen that I've added to, just to enrich the broth a little bit more, and I'm making it as rich as I possibly can, because what I want to do today is extract the broth from the bones, meat, and leeks, and turn the broth into consomme. And that's going to be our task, how to get the broth clarified and then reduced into a beautiful golden consomme. So now we've got a good broth with bones and meat and leeks all together. So obviously our first step is going to be to separate the broth from the solid material, and we do that simply with a sieve. And in this case I'm also using paper towels just to make sure that the finest of the solid matter is filtered out, and what we have left is a broth. And the broth is kind of grey, I mean delicious certainly, but doesn't look particularly appetizing as a broth. What we need to do now is to clarify it. Now, clarifying broth is not complicated, but it does take time. It's a little bit fiddly, but mostly it's just a matter of being patient. You need to use a clarifying agent, and I use egg whites and eggshells. So the first step is to separate, in this case, 2 eggs into yolk and white. I'm going to use the white for the clarifying, and I will eat the yolks in an omelette or something, put them aside. So we separate the eggs, we put the broth on to simmer, and then add the egg whites and crushed eggshell, and bring it to a simmer and let it simmer for about 20 minutes. Then let it cool so that it's warm, not absolutely cold, but a little warmer than room temperature, and then filter through paper towels, as I'm doing in this case, or it could be several layers of muslin, And the most important thing is that it takes a lot of time, because once you add the egg whites, not so much the shells, they don't matter so much, but the egg whites clog up the filtration system a lot, and it gets really, really, really slow. But the outcome is quite delightful. A very clear broth, which we can call single consomme. Tastes delicious, and you can use it in a number of different ways. For example, what I do sometimes with a clear consomme is I add a little bit of rice, or you can also just add a few julienne vegetables, and there you have a first course, a very classic, very elegant first course. Not going to fill you up. It's not a hearty soup like Cock-a-Leekie. It's fragrant and delicate, and you just need a small amount as a first course to a meal, maybe of chicken or something in the poultry line. Now, to move from single consomme to double consomme, the only thing you have to do is reduce the consomme. So what do? You put it on the stove, you bring it to a simmer uncovered, and you let a certain amount of the liquid evaporate so that the consomme gets stronger and stronger until eventually you have a beautiful golden dark double consomme. Now, one of the things that you will notice about a double consomme is that it's actually almost gelatinous. If you compare the two, as in this video, you see that the double consomme is jelly-like, whereas the single consomme is more liquid, or limpid, as we sometimes say. Now, the double consomme, if you just really reduce it to the point where when it's chilled it's a jelly, can be served as a jelly, and some people do. They will serve it cubed up, maybe with a little sprinkle of something like chives, just as a decoration, but serve it chilled in that form, or you can serve it warm or heated, again with maybe a few julienne vegetables, something pretty, and a very small amount, because the double consomme is really rich. So there we have broths and consommes based on Cock-a-Leekie. Of course, you can do the same with beef broth, with lamb broth, with any broth you care to choose to make a consomme. This is just your exemplar using Cock-a-Leekie. And next time I'm going to take you on a completely different cooking journey, but you'll have to wait a week to see what it is, in part because I have to as well. Meanwhile, if you like this video, then please subscribe and tell your friends, and I'll see you next time.